NFL great Benjamin Watson retired from professional football to tackle a new topic, the issue of abortion. Find out more about his journey and how you can get involved in today's episode of A View from the Wall.
Join I Am a Watchman Ministries Managing Editor Joe Kerr with co-host Dylan Burrows, bringing you a fascinating discussion regarding the importance of Bible prophecy and Christian living today as it relates to our responsibility as believers to be watchmen. This is A View from the Wall.
I'm Dylan Burrows, joined with co-host Joseph Kerr, and we are thrilled to be back with you today. We've had some amazing guests over the past few months, but I'm especially excited to share a conversation with you today with our friend and NFL great Benjamin Watson. He's the executive producer of The Divided Hearts of America, and his work in the pro-life discussion includes featured interviews with people like Dr. Ben Carson, Tim Scott, Alveda King, and many others. He is also the author of the books Under Our Skin and The New Dad's Playbook, and most importantly, he is a caring husband to Kirsten and dad to 7 adoring kids. Benjamin, welcome to A View from the Wall.
Hi, how you guys doing? Good to be here with you.
Oh, great to be with you as well. Benjamin, we want to start off by sharing some of your story about your NFL career because some of our listeners recognize you from there. And take a few moments to share your story of how you came from the NFL to doing the work that you're doing today with this film.
Yeah, well, I was fortunate to play in the NFL for 16 years and just retired after last year. I played in New England with the Patriots, in Cleveland, New Orleans, and Baltimore. But this type of work, I think, has been a part of my wife and I's story for the whole time. Since we've been married, which has been 15 years, we always wanted to be people who advocated for justice. You know, like it talks about in Micah 6:8.
Right.
And mercy and walking humbly with God. And so we've looked for opportunities throughout my career to be involved with helping people, whether it was sex trafficking, which we've done some work there, whether it was poverty or just lending and helping hand in the communities where we've been. And so when it comes to the issue of abortion, we consider it to be a justice issue. And our work in that area has revolved around, purchasing ultrasounds and just supporting clinics and really just bringing awareness to the issue, but most importantly in a way that protects life, but also protects mothers and focusing on bringing families together because we truly believe that the family is the building block of society, and families are under attack in a lot of different ways. So any way we can strengthen the family, we're going to lean into that.
Benjamin, you and I first met back in 2015 when your book launched at our church, Under Our Skin, down in Tampa. And the conversation has changed a lot since then with all of the news events with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. Where is the conversation of race in America today? Where does the discussion go from here?
I do remember that, and it seems like it was yesterday. But here we are again with another summer. Much like the one that we had back in 2014 and 2015. This is something that we are going to deal with for a very long time in some respects. And we have to be honest about that. We also have to realize that we have made great progress when it comes to legislation, also when it comes to the heart, but there is more that needs to be done. And I think that this year has been a year of reckoning for sure. We have to be honest with ourselves and say that this has been put in our face in ways that it hasn't in the previous several years. On one day, in June 6th of this past year, 500,000 people protested. 500,000 people all around the country in 500 different cities. And so everyone has been touched by what they've seen. The question is, what do we do? And we have to keep doing the things that we have been. We have to keep listening. First, we have to lament, though. We have to, no matter where you're from, no matter what your background is, there needs to be some sort of lament over what has happened. When anyone loses their life, no matter who it is or how it happened, we should lament over that. After that, we definitely need to be listening. We need to listen to experiences. We need to learn about the history of this country. And I'm not talking about, hundreds of years ago. I'm talking about last year, the year before. And then in love, I think that will compel us to, as individuals, as families, as corporations, as businesses, as a country, to do what needs to be done when it comes to creating equity. It's within our grasp, but it's going to take us being willing to sacrifice sometimes and put our pride to the side in order to do it. And that's got to come from the courtroom, but also has to come from the living room.
Well, that's so well said. And I love those 3 L's that you mentioned there: to lament the situation, to listen, as well as to show love. And such an important part of our Christian faith, and something that we as Christians have to step up and do a better job with. But now you've moved into filmmaking, and you're talking about your work as an executive director of the Divided Hearts of America. And we'll get into this more in the next segment, but share briefly why this film and the pro-life issue is so important to you and to your family.
Everyone, we're all made in the image of God. And that starts at conception and it ends at death. Whether that's working in a small business, or whether that be preborn at 18 weeks in the womb, or whether that be the elderly, or whether that be someone that is here in the United States or somewhere else. We should do our very best to promote and secure and protect life. And so it's important to us because of that. I believe that whether I was a Christian or not, which I am, and I do believe that there's a spiritual mandate there. Even outside of that, I think that we should all be vested in supporting life in whatever ways that we can. And so Divided Hearts of America really is a look at the division in America when it comes to this issue. We are deeply divided, and many times we don't even listen to or hear anyone on the other side. And so in doing the film, my hope was to bridge the gap, was to interview and talk to, and I talked about 30 different people, many of whom you mentioned earlier, but people that were in academia or medicine, people that were pro-life and pro-choice or somewhere in between. And the goal there was to create a dialogue, but also to create conviction on where we go from here.
Well, those are such good words. And if you are wondering how to get more information about this, we'll talk about this more, but the website for Benjamin Watson, thewatson7.com, you can check out more about his ministry and his work there, as well as about the film and see the trailer. It's a convicting trailer in terms of the film, The Divided Hearts of America. And when we come back, we'll talk more about this and why it's important for us. So stick with us here on A View from the Wall.
From I Am a Watchman Ministries, here's today's I Am a Watchman Minute.
Corrie ten Boom lost friends and family in concentration camps during World War II. There was one guard that was especially cruel. Day after day, he tormented prisoners. After the war, Corrie became an evangelical storyteller, sharing of how God saw her through the dark days of war. One night, after speaking at an event, that prison guard walked up to the stage where Corrie was. He said he had become a believer and needed to ask her for forgiveness. It wasn't easy, and there were tears in her eyes, but she forgave the man because the man Jesus had forgiven her. The guard asked for forgiveness and was blessed. And when Corrie extended forgiveness, she was blessed. And we will be too as we follow the example set for us by Christ.
Be bold, be faithful, be a watchman. IamAWatchman.com.
Welcome back to A View from the Wall. As Joe and I continue our conversation today with NFL great and filmmaker Benjamin Watson, we want to turn our attention to the most recent work that he's been doing on a film called The Divided Hearts of America. So for those who are just joining us, perhaps tell us a little bit about the story behind the film and what people will see when they watch this.
Well, the concept of the film started back in 2019 when New York passed a reproductive health act, which basically removed all restrictions on abortion. And we saw how different states, whether it be conservative or liberal states on this issue, started passing trigger laws or laws to codify abortion into state law. Along with that, the debate started to flame up, and people were becoming enraged, and there just seemed to be more of a focus on this issue. But a lot of the rhetoric was not productive, to say the least. And so within that, my wife and I, we've been involved with supporting life in different ways, and we're looking for a different way to do so. And a small film crew, we got together and created this concept of going to interview actually people in different realms of American society on their views on abortion. And so, as I mentioned before, we talked to people on both sides of the issue. But the whole goal was to find out how we got here and where we're going and what exactly is happening throughout America when it comes to abortion. What is the abortion? What happens during the procedure? Why should we care? Is it a matter of reproductive rights? Is it a matter of the rights of the preborn? We have this debate, but we try to have it in a way that is thought-provoking, but also reveals the unabashed truth about what's going on.
Ben, you do such a great job with this. Abortion discussions focus so much on the women and the abortion clinics and, of course, the babies, and all of those are important. But one of the things that you do differently that is missing is you address the men who helped create this pregnancy. Talk to those men for a minute.
Well, I've always said that, a child is 46 chromosomes, 23 and 23. So for those who say that men don't have any say-so, well, half of the baby is them. So men do have to say so, and men actually need to stand up and be accountable when it comes to the women that we choose to impregnate. Much of what has happened on the abortion landscape has to do with the inability or the unwillingness of men to actually take care of children. Now that happens in a variety of different ways. There are a lot of different reasons for that. Some men are out of the home because of unemployment, incarceration, whatever it may be. There are different reasons. But at the end of the day, men do have a role, and a huge role, in being the protectors and providers of their families. And so I think that it seems that only men really can challenge other men. And so when I challenge a man, it is not because I have it all together, because I don't. But it's because I want to hold people to the same standard that I'm trying to hold myself to imperfectly. Because when we look at the landscape of life and death in this country and around the world, if men would be accountable for our actions before and after being impregnated, before and after conception, so much of this would change. So much of the care and the love that women feel from us would change.
That is such a powerful reminder of the responsibility of men when it comes to the pro-life issue, and you address that well in the divided hearts of America. I love some of these interviews that you have, Dr. Ben Carson, Alveda King, and others. As you did the interviews for this film, tell me a little bit about one maybe that stood out to you and impacted you personally as you were producing this.
I really enjoyed so many of the interviews, and one of my favorite actually was interviewing Liz Kruger. Liz Kruger is a state senator from New York, and she invited us into her home to interview her, and she was actually the co-sponsor, the sponsor of the Reproductive Health Act in New York. She actually helped write the bill. And so that bill, as I mentioned before, kind of set with the first domino when it comes to different states, more liberal, I guess, abortion-friendly states, creating laws to help codify abortion. And so we don't obviously share the same point of view. But what was interesting in sitting in her living room and talking to her was just her reason for why she did what she did. And while I don't obviously agree on the larger outcome, we need to be able to have conversations with people who don't think like us on this issue, because many of them do care about women and they care about life. But they clearly see things in a different way. Another interview was Senator Katrina Jackson from Louisiana, and she is a Democrat. And the only reason why I say that is because so many people feel like, if you're Republican, you got to be pro-life. If you're Democrat, you got to be pro-choice. And what I found in talking to different people is that there are a lot of variations between there. She's a Democrat, she's pro-life. Just politically, she aligns with that party, and that's okay. But she still stands for life on this issue. And so in our dialogue and our conversations, when it comes around politics, we need to have a little more grace with asking the why somebody votes the way they do or why somebody might align themselves with a specific party. We can't continue to paint everybody with such a broad brush.
Benjamin, one thing you articulate so well, as a country, we aren't yet where we want to be, but we've made a lot of progress. There's a lot of hope in your message. What are the goals for America? What's the word of hope?
Well, I would say that specifically right now, we just came off of an election. There is still a lot of division, and you understand that whenever there's an election cycle, that's to be expected. But on top of that, we have had a year, unlike any other in 2020, where we've had a global pandemic. We've had economic upheaval with people losing their jobs, many not getting them back. We've had a racial reckoning, at least in the United States, and also around the world, where people are asking what's going on in America. So for a lot of us, we are shaken in ways that we haven't been before. And so for me, my hope really rests in Psalm 16:8. And in that psalm, David says, I continually set the Lord before me, because he is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. And what David is saying is that he's affected. Like, we're all affected by what's going on right now in the country. We should be. I mean, we're human beings. We're going to be affected. But our faith and our foundations should never be shaken to the point where we feel hopeless or we feel that we're destructible, because they should be rooted in who God is and the fact that we are trying to follow and keep our eyes on him. Doesn't mean we don't have problems. Doesn't mean we don't have all those sorts of things. But we do have hope. And for the nation, so much is good about this country that while we still have things that aren't great, we have remedies for them. And the arc of this country has been toward justice. Now, it's going to take intentional action. It's going to take intentional conversation. It's going to take intentional sacrifice. But I've been hopeful when I've talked to people who are starting to get it in a way that maybe they hadn't got it before.
We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back in just a moment with more on A View from the Wall. Stick with us.
The Bible predicts the rapture of the church is coming. Are you ready? Soon many will be caught up to meet the Lord in the air. Only they will escape the dark days that are coming, a time of tribulation that will usher in the Antichrist and great destruction upon the entire earth. There's only one escape, one way, one light, one truth. His name is Jesus. He came and died so that we may live forever with Him. But to receive this new life, there are three things we must do, the ABCs of salvation. A, admit you're a sinner and that you need a Savior. Ask for forgiveness and receive His grace. B, believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that He came, lived, died, rose again, and will come again. Believe that He is Lord and God. C, commit to walk His path, the path He wants you to walk, and walk it out by faith. Then you'll be ready for the return of the Lord. To learn more about the rapture and how to know for sure, visit AmIRaptureReady.org.
Welcome back to A View from the Wall. As Joe and I continue to talk with NFL great Benjamin Watson and his pro-life work and his new film, The Divided Hearts of America, we want to focus on the idea of family first that he discusses in his books and in his speaking. And Benjamin, we talk frequently about worldview on our program and how it informs who we are and what we do in life. Take a moment to talk about your perspective on family first and how that perspective drives the work that you do today.
Well, the very first institution that was created was the family. We see at the beginning of time that there was a man, woman, there were children, there was a family there. And so there's a certain sense of order when it comes to the family. And what happens, the way we are thrown into destruction usually has to do with families being broken apart either purposefully from outside influences or from inside influences. Breaking up of families always leads to negative outcomes. It always leads to the outcomes that we don't want in any society. Whether you're a believer or not, that's just the facts. When we look at any negative outcome that people have, the destruction of the family leads to that. And so there's a responsibility, I think, to encourage men when it comes to fatherhood, encourage women as mothers, encourage parents together to be leaders in their homes, to address issues, like what we've talked about over the last few minutes, like issues of race or issues of culture, or issues like abortion, whatever it may be. Teaching our children how to view other people, how to respect other people, how to view them as equals, not that they're better or they're worse, but as equals, created in the image of God. Parents have to be intentional when they teach their kids, because there's a worldview out there that is going to affect your children. There's a worldview that will affect us as parents if we don't continue to be vigilant, continue to give them the right way to view things, so that when they face different trials and different troubles and different issues, they know how to think about them from the correct worldview.
Ben, we like to put resources in people's hands, and you, as a father of 7, are uniquely qualified to write a book about being a dad, but you wrote it from a football perspective. Talk about the Dad's Playbook.
Yeah, the new Dad's Playbook, getting ready for the biggest game of your life. It's kind of like, my wife said, look, you need to write a what to do when you're expecting for guys, because basically all the stuff I messed up on, she's like, you need to put it in there so everybody else can get it right.
That's right.
So the new Dad's Playbook is part practical. It goes through the stages of pregnancy. It's written for men going through the stages of pregnancy. Men like to have knowledge. And so everything from, what's morning sickness to what do you expect when you go to the OB appointment, to how to pack a bag for the hospital visit, to how to bring the baby home and how to pick a stroller, all those sorts of things. Car seat is all packed in there. Even before I had kids, I was scared. I was worried. So for a lot of guys, whether you had a father as an example or not, sometimes you feel inadequate. And so the goal of the book was really to give guys obviously a handbook for pregnancy and how to support their mother and their children, but also tell them that they have what it takes to do it, and also that society collectively, as well as your child that's not born yet and the mother, need you to fulfill that role. Even if you're imperfect, they just need you to try.
Yes, well, that's well said. We have to try, whether we have an example that we are building from with our own father, whether we're starting a new tradition on our own. So such an important resource, the new Dad's Playbook. And as we wrap up in our last few minutes today, we have many listeners who consider themselves watchmen in the biblical sense, that they're watchmen on the wall, trying to carry a difficult message that the world perhaps doesn't want to hear at times, whether it's talking about Bible prophecy or Christian perspective on the issues of our time. What word of challenge do you have for those who are watching and witnessing and seeking to finish well in these difficult times?
Yeah, when the book of Ezekiel talks about the watchman, and you were able to see the enemies coming from a long way away. And if the watchman didn't say anything, if the watchman saw an enemy coming to attack his city and his family and didn't say anything, what would we think about the watchman? What would we think about someone who sees the arrows of culture coming that are going to destroy the family continually, that are going to undermine what we know to be true? What would be said of us if we kept quiet? And so the encouragement there is that you have a role to play. You have a job to do. And to do the football terminology, we just need everyone to do their job. No more, no less. God has placed you in a specific sphere of influence, mainly because of, your age, your occupation, your ethnicity, your job, whatever it is, wherever He's placed you. You have to be a good steward of that. You have to be aware. Now, the way you're aware of what's coming in the culture and the way you're able to decipher is by being in the Word, and being able to distinguish what is truth and what is a falsehood. So as watchmen, you have to be in the Word, you have to be watching, you have to be willing and have courage to speak out when something is going against what we know is the best plan for our lives.
Well, that's so well said. And as we wrap up today, for those who would like to know more about the film and learn more about your work, where should they go to find out more?
They can go to the Watchman7.com, spelled out, the Watchman7. That's our family website. And on there's books for sale. There's a link to the trailer and a link to Divided Hearts of America, the documentary. There's also, we also have a podcast that is out right now. There may not be a link on the website yet, but the podcast is called Why or Why Not with the Watchens. Why or Why Not with the Watchens. And it's available on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, all the platforms for podcasts. It's my wife and I talking about parenting, marriage, current events, and a bunch of other funny stuff that we talk about. So check that out as well.
Yeah, well, we're excited and looking forward to that. And let us say to our listeners a quick thank you for being with us today. We appreciate you and appreciate you joining us today. We're here to serve you and encourage you to listen again to all of our programs at IamAWatchman.com or wherever you stream your podcast. Join us next time on A View from the Wall.
A View from the Wall, in association with I Am a Watchman Ministries, exists to equip a worldwide audience with biblical truth, sharing it with others, and being prepared for Christ's imminent return. The team seeks to encourage, inspire, and equip watchmen for such a time as this. For information about the ministry and upcoming events, visit IamAWatchman.com. A View from the Wall is made possible by the team of dedicated pastors, editors, and the many contributors of I Am a Watchman Ministries. To support our efforts, give online at IamAWatchman.com and click on the donate button. Thanks for listening, and join us again next time on A View from the Wall.